My name is Elena Ross, and I am 42 years old. 12 years of marriage ended not with a scream, but with a text message that I wasn't even supposed to see. I sit here in this empty kitchen, the hum of the refrigerator the only sound in the house, and I wonder how I let it get this far. How I let myself become someone who checked phone logs at 2 a.m., who smelled shirts for perfume that wasn't mine, who learned to decipher silence like it was a second language. I'm telling this because silence almost killed me. Not physically, but the part of me that used to trust, the part that used to believe promises meant something. I need to say it out loud so it stops echoing in my head. We met when I was 28. Michael was 30. He was ambitious, charming, the kind of man who walked into a room and made you feel like you were the only one there. He was building his own architectural firm, full of plans and blueprints for a future that looked perfect on paper. I was working in PR, building my own career, but when I met him, everything shifted. He made life feel bigger, brighter. Our wedding was beautiful. Small, intimate, in a vineyard upstate. I remember looking at him as I said my vows and thinking, this is it. This is safety. Safety. That word feels like a joke now. For the first few years, it was good. We bought a house, a fixer-upper that Michael redesigned room by room. We talked about kids, about travel, about growing old together. I supported him while he worked 18-hour days to get the firm off the ground. I handled the bills, the social calendar, the networking dinners where I smiled until my jaw ached. But slowly, the firm became everything. Michael was always almost home, always just finishing up. I understood. Building a business is hard. I told myself I was being a good partner by not complaining, by keeping dinner warm, by not asking why he smelled like whiskey when he said he was working late. The secretary, Jessica, started 2 years ago. She was young, 24, fresh out of college. Bright eyes, eager to please. Michael said she was a breath of fresh air, organized, efficient. I met her at the office Christmas party. She was polite, maybe a little too friendly, laughing too loudly at Michael's jokes. But I dismissed it. She was a kid. Michael was 40. He was my husband. He wouldn't. That's what we tell ourselves, isn't it? He wouldn't. Until he does. It started with small things. He stopped leaving his phone on the table. It was always in his pocket or face down. He changed his passcode. Security update, he said. Client confidentiality. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? He was stressed. The firm was expanding. He had important meetings. Then came the late nights. Not just late, but overnight. Site visits in the city, 2 hours away. Too tired to drive back, he'd text. Staying at the hotel. I'd lie in our big, empty bed, staring at the ceiling, telling myself I was paranoid. Telling myself I was crazy for counting the hours, for tracking the miles on the car when he got back. The turning point wasn't dramatic. It was a Tuesday. I had come home early from a business trip, a surprise. I wanted to cook dinner, open a bottle of wine, just be with him. I unlocked the front door quietly. The house was dark, quiet. Michael's briefcase was on the hall table. I smiled. He was home. I walked into the living room and saw his phone on the coffee table. Face up. It buzzed. I glanced at it, expecting a client or his mom. Jessica, can't wait for tonight. That hotel room view is amazing. Love. My heart stopped. Literally stopped. I stared at the screen, the words burning into my retinas. Jessica. His secretary. The 24-year-old breath of fresh air. Hotel room. Tonight. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone. I just stood there frozen as the world tilted on its axis. The air left the room. My hands started to shake, a fine tremor that rattled the keys I was still holding. Michael walked in from the kitchen, holding a glass of water. He froze when he saw me. Elena? You're home early. I looked at him. Really looked at him. The gray at his temples that I loved. The lines around his eyes. The shirt I had ironed for him yesterday. He looked the same. But he was a stranger. Jessica texted, I said. My voice sounded hollow, like it was coming from someone else. She likes the hotel room view. His face went pale. Not the I'm sorry pale, but the I'm caught pale. The defensive pale. He put the glass down. Elena, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, I said. Don't lie. Please, just don't lie. He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's complicated. You've been distant. Work has been crazy. She understands me. She understands him. The cliché of it almost made me laugh. The young secretary understands the misunderstood genius architect. I wanted to vomit. 12 years, Michael, I whispered. 12 years. I know, he said. I know. It was a mistake. It just happened. We can fix this. I'll fire her. We'll go to counseling. He was saying all the right things. But his eyes were cold. Calculating. He wasn't sorry he hurt me. He was sorry he got caught. He was already thinking about how to manage this crisis, how to spin it. I walked out. I got in my car and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove until the gas light came on. I ended up at a motel off the highway, the kind with flickering neon signs and thin walls. I sat on the lumpy bed and cried until my chest ached, until there were no tears left. I stayed there for 3 days. I turned off my phone. I didn't call work. I didn't call my mom. I just existed in a blur of grief and rage. I replayed everything. Every missed dinner. Every working late. Every time he pulled away from my touch. It all made sense now. The puzzle pieces clicked into a grotesque picture of betrayal. When I finally turned my phone back on, there were 50 missed calls from Michael. 20 texts. Where are you? Please come home. Let's talk. And then, the shift. You're being dramatic. Don't ruin everything over one mistake. I need my suits for the conference. His suits. He needed his suits. I went back to the house on Friday morning. I knew he would be at work. The house felt foreign, like a movie set. I packed a bag. Just essentials. Clothes, toiletries, my laptop. I took the photo of us from our wedding day off the nightstand and threw it in the trash. The glass shattered. It felt satisfying. I drove to my sister's place. Sarah lived in the city, in a small apartment full of plants and books. She opened the door and pulled me into a hug without asking questions. She knew. Sisters always know. I'm staying here, I said into her shoulder. I'm leaving him. Good, she said. He never deserved you. The next few weeks were a blur of lawyers and logistics. I hired a shark. A woman named Catherine who wore sharp suits and didn't smile. We'll get everything, she said. The house, the savings, alimony. He broke the contract. Michael fought back. He hired his own lawyer, a slick guy who tried to paint me as unstable, as a neglectful wife. They brought up the fact that I worked long hours, that we hadn't had kids yet. As if my career justified his infidelity. As if my womb was the only value I brought to the marriage. I moved into a small rental apartment. It was quiet. Too quiet. I missed my garden. I missed my kitchen. But mostly, I missed the version of my life that I thought was real. I grieved for the future we were supposed to have. The growing old together. The rocking chairs on the porch. I continued to work, but it was hard. People at the office whispered. Michael's firm was high profile. Gossip traveled fast. Did you hear about Elena? Her husband left her for his secretary. The shame was suffocating. I held my head high, but inside, I was crumbling. One night, about 2 months after I left, I was at the grocery store. I turned into the pasta aisle and saw them. Michael and Jessica. They were shopping together. He was pushing the cart. She was holding onto his arm, laughing. They looked domestic. Happy. Like a real couple. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. He looked at her the way he used to look at me. With adoration. With hunger. Jessica saw me first. Her smile faltered. She whispered something to Michael. He turned, and our eyes met. For a second, I saw regret. Or maybe it was just fear. Then he looked away. He guided her down the next aisle, shielding her from me. Shielding her. Like I was the threat. I left my cart right there in the middle of the aisle. I walked out to my car and sat there, shaking. That was the moment the sadness turned into something else. Something harder. Something colder. Rage. Why should he get to be happy? Why should he get to build a new life on the ashes of ours? Why should she get to play house in the home I helped build? I drove home, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I went into my apartment and opened my laptop. I started researching. Not about divorce law. About him. About the firm. About Jessica. I knew Michael. I knew he cut corners. I knew he played fast and loose with regulations when he was stressed. It's just red tape, he used to say. Nobody checks. I started digging. I still had access to some of our joint cloud accounts he hadn't thought to close. I found emails, invoices, blueprints that didn't match the filed permits. He was bribing inspectors. He was using substandard materials on a major city project. He was funneling money from the firm into a private account, an account I didn't know about. An account he was using to pay for Jessica's apartment, for her car, for those site visit hotel rooms. The betrayal deepened. It wasn't just sex. It was financial. It was professional. He had risked everything, our livelihood, his reputation, the safety of the people who would use those buildings for greed. And for her. I sat there until dawn, printing documents, saving files. I built a dossier that would destroy him. But I didn't use it yet. I waited. Catherine, my lawyer, told me to hold my cards close. Let him think he's winning, she said. Let him get comfortable. So I did. I let the divorce proceedings drag on. I let him think I was weak, that I was broken. I let him offer me a pittance of a settlement. I let him move Jessica into our house. My friends told me I was crazy. Just sign the papers and move on, Elena, they said. Karma will get him. But I didn't want to wait for the universe. I wanted to be the karma. I started going to therapy. Dr. Evans was a kind woman with soft eyes. She listened as I poured out the anger, the hurt. You're grieving, she said. It's a process. But revenge is a double-edged sword. It might cut him, but it will bleed you too. I'm already bleeding, I told her. I might as well make it count. I started rebuilding my own life, piece by painful piece. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected during the marriage. We went out for drinks, for dinners. I laughed again. It sounded rusty, but it was there. I started dating myself. I bought flowers for my apartment. I cooked elaborate meals just for me. I took a pottery class. I felt the clay spinning under my hands, centering me. But the file on my laptop was always there. Waiting. 6 months passed. The divorce was almost final. We had a mediation meeting scheduled to settle the assets. Michael walked in looking smug. Jessica was waiting in the lobby. He wore a new suit. He looked prosperous. Unscathed. Elena, he said, nodding. Let's get this over with. Yes, I said. Let's. We sat down. His lawyer slid a paper across the table. This is our final offer. The house stays with Michael. You get a lump sum. No alimony. It was an insult. A fraction of what I was entitled to. A fraction of what I had contributed to that marriage, to that firm. I looked at Michael. Is this a joke? He shrugged. It's fair, Elena. You have your job. You'll be fine. Fair, I repeated. You think this is fair? Look, he said, leaning in. I know you're hurt. But business is business. The firm is mine. The house is mine. You walked away. I walked away because you were sleeping with your secretary, I said, my voice rising. Lower your voice, his lawyer snapped. No, I said. I stood up. I won't lower my voice. And I won't sign this. I reached into my bag and pulled out a folder. A thick, heavy folder. I slid it across the table. What's this? Michael asked, frowning. Read it, I said. He opened it. I watched his face. I watched the color drain from his cheeks as he saw the emails. The bank transfers. The inspector reports. The proof of the bribes. The proof of the embezzlement. His hands started to shake. He looked up at me, and for the first time in 6 months I saw fear. Real, terrified fear. Where did you get this? He whispered. Does it matter? I asked. It's all there, Michael. Every dirty dollar. Every cut corner. Every lie. His lawyer grabbed the folder. He scanned the pages, his eyes widening. He looked at Michael with disgust. Is this true? Michael couldn't speak. He just stared at me. I haven't sent it to the DA yet, I said calmly. Or the licensing board. Or the press. Elena, Michael choked out. You can't. This would ruin me. You ruined us, I said. You ruined 12 years. You ruined my trust. You ruined the safety I thought I had. Please, he begged. We can work this out. I'll give you the house. I'll give you whatever you want. Just don't release this. I looked at him. This man I had loved. This man I had planned to grow old with. He was pathetic. A cheater. A thief. A liar. I don't want the house, I said. I don't want your money. I want you to know what it feels like to lose everything. I turned to his lawyer. You have 24 hours to draft a new settlement. One that gives me half of everything, including the value of the firm before you destroy it. And full alimony for 10 years. And if we don't? The lawyer asked, though he knew the answer. Then I hit send, I said. I walked out of the conference room. Jessica was in the lobby, looking at her phone. She looked up as I passed. She smiled, a little smug smile. She didn't know. She didn't know her golden ticket was about to turn into ash. I walked out into the sunlight. I took a deep breath. The air tasted sweet. But it wasn't over. Not yet. Because Michael, being Michael, thought he could outsmart me. He thought he could bluff. That night, my phone rang. It was him. Elena, he said. His voice was hard now. Angry. You think you're smart? You think you can blackmail me? It's not blackmail, Michael. It's leverage. I destroyed those files, he said. The originals. You have copies. They won't hold up in court. I have the digital trail, I said. I have the metadata. I have everything. Don't test me. You still love me, he said suddenly. His voice softened, that manipulative charm oozing through the phone. I know you do. You wouldn't hurt me like this if you didn't still care. I laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. Love you? Michael, I don't even know you. The man I loved didn't exist. He was a character you played. I can make it up to you, he said. Jessica, she's nothing. A fling. I can end it. We can try again. The audacity. The sheer, breathtaking narcissism. He thought he could snap his fingers and I would come crawling back. He thought he could discard Jessica just like he discarded me. Goodbye, Michael, I said. If you release those files, he hissed, I'll make sure you never work in this town again. I have connections. So do I said. And mine aren't built on fraud. I hung up. I blocked his number. The next morning, Catherine called. They accepted the terms, she said. Everything. They're terrified. Good, I said. Draw it up. I should have felt triumphant. I should have felt victorious. But as I sat in my small apartment, looking at the city skyline, I just felt tired. It was a hollow victory. I was getting the money. I was getting the justice. But I still woke up alone. I still had the memories of his betrayal burning in my gut. And I knew deep down that Michael wouldn't learn. He would pay me off, and then he would go back to his schemes. He would find a way to cover his tracks. He would keep Jessica, or find a new Jessica. He would keep winning, because men like him always seemed to win. Unless I didn't sign. Unless I didn't take the money. I looked at the folder on my desk. The evidence. The truth. If I signed the settlement, I was buying his silence with my silence. I was becoming complicit. I was taking dirty money to let him keep hurting people. To let him keep building unsafe buildings. Was that who I was? Was that who I wanted to be? I thought about the young couple who bought our first house. I thought about the families living in the apartment complex he was currently building. The complex with the substandard concrete and the bribed inspections. If that building fell, if someone got hurt, it would be on me too. Because I knew. I picked up the phone. I called Catherine. Elena, she said. I'm sending over the draft for you to review. Don't bother, I said. What? Why? It's a great deal. You won. No, I said. I didn't win. Not yet. Elena, what are you doing? I'm not settling, I said. I'm releasing the files. Elena, wait. Think about the money. Think about your future. If you do this, he'll be bankrupt. There won't be any alimony. There won't be any assets to split. I don't care, I said. And for the first time, I meant it. I don't want his money. I want the truth. You're making a mistake, she said. This is emotional suicide. Maybe, I said. But it's moral survival. I hung up. I opened my laptop. I opened the email I had drafted weeks ago. The recipients were the district attorney, the state licensing board, the city inspector's office, and the 3 major local newspapers. My finger hovered over the enter key. This was it. The point of no return. If I pressed this, I was blowing up my own life too. The scandal would splash onto me. The architect's wife. The whistleblower. I would be dragged through the mud. I would lose the financial security I had fought for. But I would be free. Truly free. I looked at the empty space on my ring finger. I thought about Jessica's smug smile. I thought about Michael's arrogance. I pressed send. The screen refreshed. Message sent. I sat back in my chair. The room was silent. And then I started to laugh. A quiet, bubbling laugh that rose up from my chest. I poured myself a glass of wine. I walked to the window and watched the lights of the city. Somewhere out there, Michael was sleeping, thinking he had bought his way out. Thinking he had won. He had no idea that the storm was coming. And I was the lightning. I woke up the next morning to the sound of my phone buzzing against the nightstand. Not a rhythmic buzz, but a frantic, continuous vibration that sounded like a panic attack. I reached for it, squinting against the morning light. 7 a.m., 23 missed calls. 15 from Michael. 3 from Catherine. 5 from numbers I didn't recognize. I sat up, pulling the duvet around me. The silence of the apartment felt different today. It wasn't empty anymore. It was charged, like the air before a thunderstorm breaks. I opened my texts. Michael, Elena, what did you do? Michael, pick up the phone. Michael, you crazy bitch, you ruined everything. Michael, I'm coming over. I blocked him. My hands were surprisingly steady. I got out of bed and made coffee. As the machine gurgled, I turned on the small TV in the kitchen to the local news. I didn't have to wait long. Breaking news this morning, a major scandal rocking the city's architectural world. Ross and Associates, the firm behind the new Riverside complex, is under investigation following a massive leak of documents alleging bribery, fraud, and safety violations. They showed a picture of the building. Then a picture of Michael. He looked confident, successful. The photo was from an awards gala last year. I was in that photo too, cropped out just at the shoulder. The ghost wife. Sources say the leak came from an internal whistleblower, the anchor continued. The district attorney's office has confirmed they are reviewing the evidence, which appears to show a systemic pattern of corruption going back 5 years. 5 years. Half our marriage. While I was planning anniversary dinners and defending his long hours to my friends, he was building a house of cards. My phone rang again. It was Catherine. I answered. Elena, she said, her voice tight. Did you see the news? I'm watching it now. You went rogue, she said. I can't represent you if you go rogue. You just torched your settlement. I know, I said. I don't care about the settlement, Catherine. I told you. Michael's lawyer called. They're threatening to sue you for defamation, for theft of proprietary information, for breach of privacy. Let them, I said, sipping my coffee. Truth is an absolute defense against defamation. And as for the rest, I was a partner in the business on paper, remember? Michael put my name on the incorporation documents for tax purposes. I have a right to access company files. Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. You're dangerous, Elena. I learned from the best, I said. I spent the day in my apartment, watching the fallout. It was like watching a car crash in slow motion. By noon, reporters were camped outside Michael's office. I saw footage of him trying to leave the building, shielding his face with a briefcase. Jessica was behind him, looking terrified, her face pale and unmasked. No smug smiles today. My own phone kept ringing. Reporters. Friends. Family. I ignored them all except my sister, Sarah. I saw the news, she said when I picked up. Holy sh*T Elena. Did you do this? Yes. You are a legend, she whispered. Mom is freaking out though. She says you've disgraced the family name. Tell Mom the name was Ross, and I'm giving it back as soon as the divorce is final, I said. And tell her disgrace is stealing money and endangering lives, not telling the truth. Are you okay? Sarah asked. Really? I don't know, I admitted. I feel light, like gravity just turned off. Be careful, she warned. He's going to come for you. He tried. That evening, there was pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole. It wasn't Michael. He probably knew better than to violate a restraining order I hadn't filed yet, but definitely would. It was his lawyer, the slick one. Mrs. Ross, he yelled through the door. Open up. We need to talk. Talk to my lawyer, I said through the wood. You're facing serious criminal charges, Mrs. Ross. Corporate espionage. Hacking. I knew the passwords, I said. That's not hacking. Go away or I'm calling the police. He left, but the threat hung in the air. I knew Michael wouldn't stop. He was a narcissist losing his supply. He would fight until there was nothing left to scorch. The next few weeks were a legal nightmare. The DA called me in for questioning. I went, sitting in a drab room with a new lawyer Catherine had recommended, a criminal defense specialist named David, ironic. I told them everything. I gave them the original hard drive. I walked them through the invoices. Why now? The investigator asked. He was a tired-looking man with coffee stains on his tie. You knew about this for months? I knew about the affair, I said. I didn't know about the fraud until I left him. And then, I wanted to see if he would do the right thing. If he would be fair. And he wasn't? No, I said. He tried to buy me off with pennies while sitting on a mountain of stolen gold. They didn't charge me. I was a cooperating witness. The spurned wife narrative actually helped. The jury would understand a woman scorned better than a corporate spy. Meanwhile, Michael's world was disintegrating. The firm's assets were frozen. The city halted construction on the Riverside complex. Investors sued. The bank called in his loans. And the best part? Jessica left him. I heard it from a mutual friend. Apparently, once the money tap turned off and the paparazzi showed up, the breath of fresh air realized she was suffocating. She moved back in with her parents in Ohio. She gave an interview to a tabloid, claiming she was a victim, that Michael had manipulated her, that she didn't know he was married. A lie. Obviously, I met her at the Christmas party. Michael was alone, living in our big, beautiful house that was now being foreclosed on. I should have felt satisfied. I had destroyed him. I had taken his career, his reputation, his mistress, his money. But the anger didn't leave. It just changed shape. It became a dull ache in my chest. Because no matter how much he lost, I couldn't get back the 12 years I wasted. I couldn't get back the trust. I couldn't unsee the text messages. I was working at my PR job, trying to pretend everything was normal, when my boss called me in. Elena, he said, not meeting my eyes. We need to let you go. I stared at him. What? Why? My performance has been excellent. It's the publicity, he said. The scandal. Clients are uncomfortable. We represent family brands, Elena. Being associated with this, it's not good for business. I'm the victim, I said, my voice rising. I'm the one who exposed the corruption. You're the whistleblower, he said. And nobody likes a snitch, Elena. Even a righteous one. It implies disloyalty. Disloyalty. I packed my box for the second time in 6 months. I walked out of the building into the gray city rain. I had destroyed Michael. And in the process, I had destroyed my own career. I went home and sat on the floor of my apartment. I had no job, no husband, no money coming in. The legal bills were piling up. I started to laugh again, but this time it turned into sobbing. Ugly, heaving sobs that racked my body. I curled into a ball on the rug. Was it worth it? The question haunted me. A week later, I got a call from an unknown number. Elena. A woman's voice. Hesitant. Yes, this is Karen. From the inspection office. I sat up straighter. I remember you. Michael used to mention you. Yeah, she said. Look, I saw the news. I saw what you did. Are you calling to yell at me too? No, she said. I'm calling to say thank you. I paused. Thank you? My brother worked on one of Michael's sites 3 years ago, she said. Her voice cracked. He fell. A scaffolding collapse. They said it was user error. But I knew. I knew they were using cheap brackets. Michael paid off the foreman to keep quiet. My hand flew to my mouth. Oh my God. Karen, I'm so sorry. He's in a wheelchair now, she said. For life. We tried to sue, but we couldn't prove anything. The paperwork disappeared. I gave the DA everything, I said. Maybe there's proof in there. There is, she said. The investigator called me yesterday. They found the emails authorizing the payout. They're reopening the case. I felt a chill run down my spine. Thank you, Elena, she said again. You didn't just expose a cheater. You exposed a criminal. You gave us a chance at justice. We hung up. I sat there for a long time, holding the phone. It wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about Jessica or the marriage. It was about Karen's brother. It was about the families in those unsafe buildings. I wasn't just a scorned wife. I was a force of correction. I stood up. I wiped my face. I didn't have a job, but I had a purpose. I started writing. I wrote a blog post, then an article. The Cost of Silence, Why I Blew the Whistle on My Husband. I pitched it to every major publication. Most ignored me. But one, a feminist online magazine, bit. They published it. It went viral. Comments poured in. Thousands of them. Women sharing their own stories of betrayal, of financial abuse, of husbands who hid behind power and reputation. You are brave. Thank you for speaking up. I wish I had your courage. I started getting emails from other women. My husband is doing the same thing. How did you find the documents? Can you help me? I realized I had tapped into something massive. A reservoir of female rage and silence that was waiting to burst. I wasn't unhireable. I was just in the wrong industry. I started consulting. Not PR for brands, but crisis management for women. The First Wives Club of Justice, my sister joked. But it was real work. I helped women navigate the forensic accounting of divorce. I helped them find the hidden assets. I helped them build their exit strategies. Michael's trial date was set for November. I would be the star witness. But before that, there was one last confrontation. I was at a coffee shop near my old house. I still went there sometimes, masochistically, maybe. I was working on my laptop when he walked in. Michael. He looked diminished. He had lost weight. His suit was ill-fitting, like he had shrunk inside it. He wasn't the strutting peacock anymore. He was a wet dog. He saw me. He stopped. The old panic flared in my chest for a second. The instinct to run. But then I looked at him, really looked at him, and saw nothing but a sad, desperate man. He walked over to my table. Elena, he said. His voice was raspy. Michael, are you happy? He asked. It wasn't an accusation. It was a genuine question. I'm getting there, I said. I lost everything, he said. The firm is gone. The house is in foreclosure. I'm looking at 5 to 10 years in prison. I know. Jessica left me, he added, as if that was the tragedy on par with prison. I know that too. He looked at me with wet eyes. Why didn't you just leave? Why did you have to burn it down? Because you didn't just break my heart, Michael, I said softly. You broke the law. You hurt people. Karen's brother is in a wheelchair because of you. He flinched. That was an accident. It was negligence, I said. And greed. I did it for us, he said. The old lie. I wanted to give us a good life. No, I said. You did it for you. For your ego. I was just the audience. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he shook his head. You're cold, Elena. You used to be so warm. Fire is warm, I said. Until it burns you. He walked away. He didn't buy coffee. He just walked out the door, shoulders slumped, into the gray autumn day. I watched him go. And for the first time in a year, I felt the knot in my chest loosen. He was gone. The man I loved was a ghost. The man I hated was a criminal. And I was something new. I went back to my laptop. I had an email from a woman in Texas. Her husband was hiding assets in a shell company. She needed help finding the paper trail. I cracked my knuckles and started typing. November came. The trial was a media circus. I testified for 3 days. I sat on the stand and looked Michael in the eye while I detailed every fraudulent invoice, every bribe. He couldn't even look at me. He stared at the table. The jury was out for 4 hours. Guilty on all counts. Fraud. Embezzlement. Bribery. reckless endangerment. The judge sentenced him to 8 years in federal prison. When they led him away in handcuffs, he looked back at the gallery. He wasn't looking for Jessica. He wasn't looking for his lawyer. He was looking for me. Our eyes met one last time. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just nodded. Acknowledgement. It is done. I walked out of the courthouse onto the steps. The flashbulbs popped. Reporters shouted my name. Elena! Elena! How do you feel? Mrs. Ross, do you have a statement? I stopped at the microphones. I looked at the cameras. My name is Elena, I said. Just Elena. And my statement is this: the truth always comes out. Sometimes it just needs a little help. I walked down the steps, past the chaos, to where my sister was waiting in her car. Ready? She asked. Ready, I said. We drove away. I didn't go back to the apartment. I had given notice on the lease. I bought a small house. Not a fixer-upper. A small cottage with a garden, an hour outside the city. It was just me. And a dog I adopted from the shelter, a scruffy terrier mix named Justice. My sister named him. I thought it was cheesy, but it stuck. I spent the winter gardening. I planted bulbs that would sleep in the cold earth and rise in the spring. I was alone, but I wasn't lonely. Karma had done its job. Michael was in a cell. Jessica was back in Ohio, probably looking for the next boss to charm. And I was here, digging in the dirt. But life, as I learned, isn't a movie. The credits don't roll just because the bad guy goes to jail. The aftermath lingers. I still had nightmares. Dreams where I was back in the big house and the walls were closing in, made of Michael's fraudulent blueprints. Dreams where I found another phone, another text. Trust is a muscle, Dr. Evans told me. It can atrophy. You have to rehabilitate it. I wasn't ready to date. The thought of a man touching me, lying to me, made my skin crawl. But I had my work. My consulting business was booming. I hired an assistant, a young woman named Maya who was sharp and angry and brilliant. We were a team. One day in March, the first crocuses were pushing through the snow in my garden. Purple and gold. I got a letter. No return address. Prison stationery. I knew who it was. I stood by the mailbox, shivering in the wind. I could tear it up. I could burn it. But curiosity is a curse. I opened it. Elena. I have a lot of time to think in here. About the buildings. About the money. About Jessica. But mostly about you. I realized something yesterday. You were the only real thing in my life. The only thing I didn't build out of lies. And I broke you. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that you were right. About everything. Fire is warm. But ash is cold. Goodbye, Michael. I folded the letter. I walked back into the house. I went to the fireplace and tossed it in. I watched it curl and blacken and turn to ash. Ash is cold, I whispered. But outside, the crocuses were blooming. And tomorrow, I had a client meeting with a woman who was ready to reclaim her life. I poured myself a cup of tea. I sat by the window. I was 43 now. I was single. I was scarred. But I was standing. And for the first time in a long time, the silence didn't scare me. It felt like peace. Life after the trial settled into a rhythm I hadn't anticipated. I thought there would be a crescendo of relief, a final trumpet blast of "it's over," but trauma doesn't work like that. It's quieter. It's the flinch when a phone buzzes. It's the nausea that hits when you smell a certain cologne in a grocery store aisle. It's the way you scan a room for exits, for threats, for lies. My consulting business, the glass house, grew. Maya, my assistant, was a godsend. She handled the logistics while I handled the women. They came to me broken, just like I had been. Some were rich, wives of CEOs and politicians. Some were middle class, teachers and nurses whose husbands had gambled away their pensions or hidden second families. I taught them how to be detectives in their own lives. Look at the credit card statements. Check the mileage logs. Audit the family calendar. Trust your gut, I told them. If you think something is wrong, it is. But while I was saving others, I was still drifting. My sister Sarah tried to set me up. It's been 2 years, Elle, she said over wine one night. He's a teacher. Divorced. Nice guy. Nice guys finish last, I joked, but the bitterness in my voice surprised even me. Or they turn out to be sociopaths with secret families. Not everyone is Michael, she said gently. I know, I said. But I don't know how to tell the difference anymore. I went on the date. His name was Paul. He was kind. He had gentle hands and talked about his students with genuine affection. We had dinner. We laughed a little. But when he walked me to my car and leaned in for a kiss, I froze. Panic spiked in my chest. I saw Michael's face. I saw the text message. I saw the smirk on Jessica's face. I pulled away. I can't, I whispered. I'm sorry. I drove home shaking. I sat in my driveway and cried for the first time in months. Michael was in prison, but he was still controlling me. He was still in my head, whispering that I was unlovable, that I was a fool. I realized then that destroying him wasn't enough. I had to evict him. I went back to therapy. Dr. Evans listened as I unpacked the date. You're protecting yourself, she said. It's natural. But you're also punishing yourself. You think because you missed the signs with Michael, you can't trust your own judgment. I missed a billboard, I said. Not a sign. He was a master manipulator, she reminded me. Sociopaths are good at what they do. It wasn't your fault. It wasn't my fault. I said the words, but I didn't feel them. Then, the past came knocking again. I got a call from the prison. It was the chaplain. Mrs. Ross, sorry, Ms. Ross, he said. Michael has requested to see you. No, I said immediately. He's sick, Elena, the chaplain said. He has cancer. Pancreatic. It's aggressive. The world stopped spinning for a second. Michael. The invincible architect. The man who thought he could outsmart gravity. Dying? Is it terminal? Yes. Doctors give him a few months. Maybe less. He wants to make amends. Amends. The classic step 9. I can't, I said. Think about it, the chaplain said. For your sake, not his. I hung up. I walked out into my garden. Justice, my dog, trotted after me, sensing my distress. Michael was dying. Part of me, the dark, angry part, thought, good. Let him rot. But another part, the part that remembered the man I married in the vineyard, felt a sharp, confusing pang of grief. Not for the monster who stole from me, but for the life we wasted. I didn't go. Not at first. But the thought gnawed at me. If he died without me seeing him, would I always wonder? Would I always carry the weight of the unsaid? A week later, I drove to the Federal Correctional Facility. It was a gray, imposing building surrounded by razor wire. I went through security. I sat in the visiting room, smelling of bleach and despair. When they brought him out, I gasped. He was a skeleton. His skin was yellow, his eyes sunken. The arrogance was gone. The charm was gone. He looked like a frightened old man. He was only 45. He sat down across from me behind the plexiglass. He picked up the phone. I picked up mine. Elena, he rasped. Michael. You came. I'm here. He looked at me, his eyes searching my face. You look good, he said. You look strong. I am, I said. I'm sorry, he said. I know I said it in the letter. But I wanted to say it to your face. I ruined everything. I had gold and I traded it for dust. Why? I asked. The question that had haunted me for 3 years. Why wasn't I enough? Why wasn't our life enough? He sighed, a rattle in his chest. It wasn't about you, Elle. It was never about you. It was me. I was empty. I needed more. More money. More validation. Jessica wasn't a person to me. She was a mirror. She showed me a version of myself that was powerful. Young. You saw me. The real me. And I hated that. I stared at him. It was the most honest thing he had ever said. I loved you, I said. The real you. I know, he said. Tears leaked from his eyes. That's why I had to destroy it. I couldn't live up to the way you looked at me. We sat in silence for a long time. I'm scared, he whispered finally. I'm going to die in here, Elena. Alone. You're not alone, I said. You have your choices. They're keeping you company. It was harsh. But it was true. Will you forgive me? He asked. I looked at the man who had broken me. The man who had stolen my youth, my trust, my peace. Could I forgive him? I don't know, I said. Forgiveness is a heavy thing, Michael. I don't know if I can lift it yet. He nodded. I understand. But, I added, I won't hate you anymore. Hate takes too much energy. And I need my energy for my life. He smiled, a weak, ghostly thing. Your life. Is it good? It's mine, I said. And that makes it good. The guard tapped his shoulder. Time was up. Goodbye, Michael, I said. He put his hand on the glass. Goodbye, El. I put my hand up, matching his palm. The glass was cold. I walked out of the prison. The sun was setting, painting the sky in violent shades of orange and purple. I got in my car and drove. I didn't cry. I felt light. Lighter than I had in years. He was dying. And I was living. That was the closure. Not his apology. Not his death. But the realization that I had survived him. Michael died 3 weeks later. I didn't go to the funeral. There wasn't really a funeral. His parents had passed years ago, and he had alienated everyone else. He was cremated by the state. I got a call from a lawyer I didn't know. The executor of his meager estate. He left you something, the lawyer said. I don't want it, I said. Whatever it is. It's a letter. And a key. A key to what? A safe deposit box. In a bank in Zurich. My heart hammered. Zurich? He said it's the only thing he managed to hide. From the feds. From everyone. I took the key. I flew to Zurich. I felt like I was in a spy movie, but it was just my weird, twisted life. I opened the box. Inside was a hard drive. And a notebook. I opened the notebook. It was a journal. Michael's journal from the last year of his life, before prison. It wasn't a confession of crimes. It was a confession of fear. He wrote about the pressure. About the house of cards. About how he felt trapped by his own lies. And at the end, there was a note to me. Elena, if you're reading this, I'm gone. This hard drive contains the access codes to a cryptocurrency wallet. It's not the stolen money. I returned all that, or the feds took it. This is money I made before. Legitimate money. From the early days. Before I lost my way. It's about $2 million. The feds missed it. It's yours. Take it. Use it. Build something real. Don't let my ghosts haunt you. Buy a new house. Travel. Live. Love. I sat in the sterile bank vault, staring at the drive. $2 million. It was a fortune. It was freedom. But was it clean? Legitimate money, he said. From the early days. Before the corruption. I thought about Karen's brother in the wheelchair. I thought about the families who lost their deposits on the condos. I couldn't keep it. Even if it was clean, it felt dirty coming from him. But I could use it. I flew back home. I cashed out the crypto. I set up a foundation. The Phoenix Fund. Its mission, to provide legal aid and financial support to women escaping abusive or fraudulent marriages. And to support victims of construction negligence. I gave Karen a check for $500,000. For her brother's care. She wept in my arms. I used the rest to fund my consulting firm pro bono. Now, I didn't just advise women. I could hire the forensic accountants for them. I could pay their retainers. I turned Michael's legacy into a weapon for good. It felt like the final alchemy. Turning lead into gold. Turning pain into power. 5 years passed. I was 48. My hair had more gray in it now, streaks of silver that I didn't dye. I earned them. I was in my garden one Saturday, pruning the roses. Justice was sleeping in the sun. A car pulled up. A man got out. He was tall, with kind eyes and worn jeans. He looked like he knew how to build things. Elena Ross, he asked. Just Elena, I said, standing up and wiping dirt from my hands. I'm David, he said. David Miller. You helped my sister last year. Sarah Miller? Her husband was the one hiding assets in the Cayman Islands. I remember Sarah, I said. She's a tough woman. She is, he said. Thanks to you. She wanted me to bring you this. He handed me a basket. Homemade jam. Fresh bread. Thank you, I said. She also told me, he said, scratching the back of his neck, looking a little shy, that you like gardening. I'm a landscape architect. I noticed your retaining wall is a little, leaning. I laughed. It's ancient. Like me. It's not ancient, he said, looking at me. It just needs a little support. He smiled. It was a genuine smile. No slick charm. No hidden agenda. Just a man offering to fix a wall. I make terrible lemonade, I said. But I have cold beer. Beer sounds good, he said. We sat on the porch. We talked about soil. About drainage. About how hard it is to make things grow in rocky ground. He didn't ask about my past. I didn't ask about his. We just sat in the present. The sun went down. The fireflies came out. I should go, he said. Okay, I said. Can I come back? To look at the wall. I'd like that, I said. He left. I watched his truck drive away. I went inside. I looked at myself in the mirror. I saw the lines. I saw the scars. But I also saw the light in my eyes. I wasn't the naive girl who married Michael in the vineyard. I wasn't the angry woman who burned down his life. I was Elena. I was whole. And maybe, just maybe, I was ready to let someone fix my wall. David came back. Not just for the wall, but for the garden, and then for dinner, and then just to be there. He was slow and steady, like the seasons. He didn't try to sweep me off my feet. He just stood beside me until I realized I wasn't swaying anymore. It took me a year to tell him the whole story. About Michael. About Jessica. About the whistleblowing and the trial and the money. We were sitting by the fire in my cottage. It was raining outside, a cold November rain that usually made my bones ache with old memories. I finished talking and waited. I waited for him to look at me differently. To see me as damaged goods, or worse, as a vindictive woman who had destroyed a man. David poked the fire. He took a sip of his wine. He underestimated you, he said simply. Who? Michael. He thought you were just the scenery in his play. He didn't know you were the director. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. I was angry, David. I was so angry I wanted to burn the world down. And you did, he said. You burned down the lies. And look what grew in the ashes. He gestured around the room. At the photos of the women I had helped on the mantel. At the letters of thanks pinned to the corkboard in my office. At us. You're a phoenix, Elle, he said. And I like birds. I laughed, crying a little. He pulled me close. His shirt smelled like sawdust and rain. It was the best smell in the world. We got married 2 years later. No vineyards. No big parties. Just us, my sister Sarah, his sister Sarah. We joked about the Sarah convention and a judge in the town hall. I wore a cream suit. He wore a jacket that actually fit him. I didn't change my name. I was Elena Ross Hayes now. I kept the Ross not to honor Michael, but to remember the woman who survived him. My consulting firm continued to thrive. But the world was changing. The #MeToo movement happened. Women were speaking up louder than ever. I felt like I had been part of the prelude to that symphony. One day, I got an email from a production company. They wanted to make a movie about my life. The architect's wife. My first instinct was to say no. I didn't want the drama dredged up again. I didn't want Michael to be famous, even in infamy. But Maya, my assistant who is now my partner, looked at me. Think about the reach, Elena, she said. Think about the women in small towns who don't read feminist blogs but watch Netflix. They need to know they can fight back. So I agreed. On one condition, I had script approval. They hired a brilliant screenwriter. We spent hours on Zoom. I told her about the small things. The smell of whiskey. The way Jessica laughed. The silence in the kitchen. When the movie came out, it was a hit. Not a blockbuster, but a critical darling. Meryl Streep didn't play me, I wish, but a fierce, talented actress named Viola did. She captured the anger, the grief, the steel. I went to the premiere with David. I wore a red dress. Fire. After the movie, a woman came up to me in the lobby. She was young, maybe 25. She was shaking. I'm Jessica, she said. I froze. It wasn't the Jessica. Just a Jessica. My boyfriend, he's doing this to me. Right now. I found the texts last night. She looked at me with wide, terrified eyes. I didn't know what to do. I felt so stupid. But watching this, watching you, I know I can leave. I know I can survive. I took her hands. You can, I said. You will. And if you need a forensic accountant, call me." She laughed through her tears. That was the real ending. Not the credits rolling, but the ripple effect. The truth spreading like roots underground, breaking up the concrete of lies. I'm 55 now. David and I have a good life. We travel. We garden. We argue about what to watch on TV. It's boring. It's beautiful. Sometimes I think about Michael. Not with anger anymore, but with a distant pity. He had everything, and he threw it away for a mirage. He died alone in a cage of his own making. I live in a house with no secrets. My walls are straight. My foundation is solid. And every year, on the anniversary of the day I hit send on that email to the DA, I pour a glass of good wine. I toast the woman I used to be, the scared, heartbroken wife in the empty kitchen. "You did good, kid," I whisper. "You did good." And then I go out to the porch, where David is waiting to watch the sunset. The sky is full of fire, but it doesn't burn. It just shines. When I said I was at peace, that was not entirely true. Peace is not a switch that flips the moment the cheater gets punished and the paperwork gets stamped. Peace is a thing that visits. It sits down for a few minutes, sometimes an hour, then it leaves again, like it has other appointments. I am telling you that because the neat ending is the part people want, but it is not the part that stays in your body. I am 55 now, and there are days I still reach for my phone in the middle of the night because I think I heard it vibrate. There are nights I wake up certain that I will see a screen glowing on the nightstand, and a name I do not want to read. It is ridiculous, because Michael is dead and buried in a way that does not leave much room for haunting. He did not have a funeral. He did not have the kind of life that creates a line of mourners. He had choices. And he had consequences. People love consequences when they are clean, when they look like a judge's sentence and a pair of handcuffs. But what I remember most, even now, is how ordinary the beginning was. A Tuesday. A phone on a coffee table. A message from a woman whose job title sounded harmless. Secretary. That word used to make me think of appointment calendars and staplers and polite smiles. Now it makes me think of a door that was left unlocked. I still remember the exact punctuation of that text. The little heart at the end. The casual confidence of it. And I remember the way Michael's face changed when he realized I had seen it. It was not guilt. It was calculation. I did not understand that in the moment. I did not have the vocabulary for it. I only felt the cold. I have learned since then that the cold is a tell. David is in the kitchen right now, rinsing a coffee cup. He does not know I am sitting here in the den with the lights low, talking into the microphone the way I do sometimes when I cannot sleep. He thinks I am writing. That is what I tell him when the words start pressing behind my teeth, and I do not want to scare him with the truth, which is that some nights I still need to speak to the past like it is a person. David is good to me. He is not perfect. I need to say that too, because the internet loves perfect men as much as it loves ruined men, and neither is real. David forgets to put the mail where it belongs. He leaves his shoes in the hallway. He gets quiet when he is stressed, and I have to remind myself that quiet is not secrecy. He has never once made me feel like an accessory to his life. And that is the difference. Still, when he gets a text and his screen lights up, my chest tightens before my brain can catch up. It is not romantic. It is not tragic. It is just biology trained by betrayal. In the first year after everything, I hated myself for that tightening. I told myself it meant I was still tied to Michael. I told myself it meant I had not moved on. I told myself it meant the affair and the fraud had won, because it had rewired me. Now I understand it means I survived something my body took seriously. I remember the trial like it was a smell. Bleach and stale coffee and winter coats damp from melted snow. I remember the way the prosecutor spoke, calm and methodical, laying out the numbers like they were bones on a table. I remember watching Michael at the defense table, thinner than he used to be, his jaw clenched, his eyes refusing to meet mine. And I remember the moment the words, guilty on all counts, landed, not like fireworks, but like a heavy box being set down after carrying it too far. People asked me how it felt. I told them it felt like breathing through a bruise. That was the truth. It was relief, but it was not joy. It was permission to stop arguing with reality. The sentencing was worse than the verdict. The verdict was about the law. The sentencing was about a human being being reduced to a number of years, and even though he deserved it, even though he had built unsafe buildings and paid people off and treated me like a stage prop, I still felt the strange sickness of watching a life collapse in public. Not because he did not deserve it. Because I had once loved him. It is a terrible thing, loving someone who turns out to be poison. The love does not evaporate just because you recognize the poison. It becomes a stain you have to learn to live with. Michael tried to turn the stain into a leash. He did it in small ways at first. He told his lawyer to call mine and suggest that I was emotionally volatile. He let it leak that I was spiteful. He hinted, through mutual acquaintances, that I had exaggerated, that the fraud was misunderstood accounting, that the affair was a mistake and a moment of weakness. A moment. 2 years. The thing I learned about men like Michael is that they shrink their actions with language. They call choices, mistakes, and patterns moments. They take your life and then talk about it like it was a minor scheduling conflict. Jessica did it too. When she gave her little interview, the one where she cried into perfect makeup and said she was young and naive, I felt something crack in me that I had not known was still intact. I was not angry at her tears. I was angry at the way she tried to purchase innocence with them. She knew he was married. She knew because she had looked me in the eye while I asked her how her mother was doing. She knew because she had stood beside Michael at the Christmas party, laughing at his jokes, watching me like I was a piece of furniture in the room. She knew because she texted him anyway. And still, when the story turned ugly, she reached for the oldest script in the world. He made me. I did not. I was a girl. I hated that script more than I hated her. Because I knew the truth. It takes 2 hands to undress a marriage. The first time I saw her after the scandal broke, I did not recognize her. It was at a bank in the city months after Michael's sentence, when I was finalizing paperwork for the foundation. I was at the counter with a stack of documents, signing my name over and over until my hand cramped. I looked up and saw her at the far end of the lobby. She was wearing a hoodie. Her hair was pulled into a messy knot. Her face looked smaller, like the confidence had been suctioned out of her. For a second, my body went hot. Not rage, not fear, just heat. She saw me, and her eyes widened, and the bank suddenly felt too bright. She walked toward me slowly, like she was approaching an injured animal. "Elena," she said. Her voice was quiet. I did not answer. "I am not here to fight," she said. I watched her mouth move and thought of that little heart in her text. I thought of her fingers typing it, casual, smug, safe. "What do you want?" I said finally. Her throat bobbed. "I just wanted to say I am sorry." The word landed like a coin tossed into a deep well. It made a sound, but it did not fill anything. "Sorry for what?" I asked. Her eyes flicked down, then up. "For everything. For being part of it. For hurting you. Were you sorry when you moved into my house?" I asked. Her face tightened. I did not move in. "You did," I said. "I saw the utilities. I saw the mail forwarding. Do not stand here and pretend you were a guest." Her hands trembled. She pressed them together. "I thought he loved me." I stared at her. In that moment, I understood something I had resisted for years. Jessica was not my enemy because she was special. Jessica was my enemy because she was ordinary. She was one of those women who thinks love is proven by what a man risks for you, and she did not care that what he risked was my life. She did not care until the risk turned toward her. "I do not care what you thought," I said. My voice was flat, almost bored, and that surprised me. "I care what you did." Tears filled her eyes. "I lost everything." I almost laughed. Not because it was funny. Because the audacity of saying that to me was so absolute it felt like stepping into a wind tunnel. "You lost the fantasy," I said. "I lost the years." She flinched like I had slapped her. A security guard glanced over, cautious. Jessica swallowed. "I am not asking you to forgive me." "Good," I said. "Because I do not have forgiveness for you. I do not keep it in my purse." She nodded, wiping under her eyes with the sleeve of her hoodie. "I deserved what happened." "Yes," I said. She waited, as if she expected me to say something softer. Something that made her feel human again. I did not. She turned and walked out. I watched her leave, and I felt nothing. That was when I knew I had changed. The old Elena would have felt guilty for not offering comfort. The old Elena would have tried to be the bigger person, the gracious one, the woman who could say, "It is okay," even when it was not. That woman died the night I saw the text. I have mourned her. I have also thanked her for leaving because she was too willing to disappear. Michael tried to reach me again before he got sick. Letters. Messages through lawyers. Indirect attempts through acquaintances who still believed in his charm. People who said things like, "He is paying for it, Elena," as if prison time was the same as undoing damage. I ignored him. Not because I was strong. Because I was tired. When the chaplain called and told me about the cancer, I sat in my kitchen holding the phone like it was radioactive. The part of me that still carried old loyalty wanted to drive to that prison and offer him some kind of closure. The larger part of me wanted to hang up and never think about him again. I went because I needed to see the truth in a new form. I needed to see the man without the suit, without the firm, without the stage. I needed to know if there was anything in him worth saving in my memory. There was not. There was only the same self-pity, rearranged into a softer shape. He was sorry, but he was also still centered on himself. Even dying, he wanted my attention, my presence, my energy. He wanted me to be the final witness to his humanity. And I understood then that he did not want forgiveness. He wanted absolution. He wanted me to tell him he was still a good man who just did bad things. I could not give him that. I told him I would stop hating him because hate was expensive and I had other bills to pay. That was true. But I did not tell him he was good. He cried when I left. I did not. I cried later, in my car, not for him, but for the years I spent trying to earn love from someone who fed on devotion and called it intimacy. When he died, it was quiet. No press, no drama. The media had moved on to the next scandal. People stopped asking me questions. The world continued doing what it always does. For a while, that hurt. Then it started to feel like mercy. The Zurich key should have felt like a plot twist from a cheap novel. Instead, it felt like Michael's last attempt to control the narrative. Even in death, he wanted to be the man who gave me something. He wanted to be generous so I would remember him as complicated, not as criminal. The money might have been clean. It might have been dirty. I will never know for sure. What I do know is that it did not feel like a gift. It felt like a test. So I used it the only way that did not make me feel sick. I turned it outward. I gave it to the people Michael had harmed, and to women who were still trapped in the kind of marriage I once thought was normal. The Phoenix Fund did not make me feel noble. It made me feel practical. Because the truth is, most women do not stay because they are weak. They stay because leaving is expensive. They stay because they have children. They stay because they have mortgages. They stay because they have been told, in 100 tiny ways, that the world will punish them more than it will punish the man who betrayed them. I wanted the fund to be a small wedge in that punishment. That is all. Not a movement. Not a brand. A wedge. David says I saved people. I do not feel like a savior. I feel like a woman who learned how quickly life can turn when you finally stop lying to yourself. David came into my life the way most good things do, without fanfare. He showed up with jam and bread and a practical note about a leaning retaining wall. That is the kind of romance I can stomach now. Not fireworks. Support. He did not flirt like Michael used to. He did not perform. He asked questions and waited for answers. He did not get offended when I needed space. He did not call my boundaries drama. When I told him the story, he did not try to fix it. He did not say, "At least you got something good out of it." He did not say, "Everything happens for a reason." He said Michael underestimated me. That was the closest thing to comfort I have ever needed. We did not marry quickly. We did not marry to prove anything. We married because the days kept stacking up and we kept choosing each other without the kind of negotiation that used to exhaust me. There is still a part of me that feels suspicious of happiness. Not because I think I do not deserve it. Because happiness once came with a trapdoor. David knows that. Sometimes, when he is scrolling on his phone and I go quiet, he will set it down without me asking. He will come sit beside me. He will take my hand, not like he is apologizing for something, but like he is reminding me what is real. That is love, I think. Not grand gestures. Reassurance without resentment. Still, I do not want to romanticize my life now. I am not a healed woman. I am a living one. There are days I cannot stand the sound of other people chewing. There are days the mail makes my stomach flip because I expect a letter from some court, some lawyer, some person trying to tell me I should have been kinder. There are days I look at my face in the mirror and see the woman I was at 42, the one who thought she was safe, and I want to reach through the glass and warn her. But I cannot. So I tell you instead. If you catch him texting his secretary, do not talk yourself out of what you saw. Do not accept the language that shrinks betrayal into a misunderstanding. Do not let him move the goalposts until your pain looks unreasonable. Your pain is information. So is his secrecy. So is the way he acts like you are the problem for noticing the knife in your back. I am not proud of everything I did next. I am not proud of how cold I can be now. But I am proud that I stopped cooperating with my own erasure. Michael used to say buildings do not fall all at once. They fail slowly, under stress, until one day a beam gives way and everyone acts surprised. He was right. He just did not realize the same is true for marriages. And for women. I did not collapse all at once. I failed slowly, under stress, until one day a text gave way. And then I did what I had to do. Not to become a hero. Not to teach a lesson. To survive. I am going to end it here, because there is nothing cinematic left to say. The rest is dishes in the sink and garden weeds and the occasional nightmare. The rest is the price of knowing. And the relief of not pretending you do not.